So if you're looking to lose weight and especially keep it off, which I hope you want to keep it off because otherwise what's the point? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The odds of success are not good. When you dig through the different research, it's kind of depressing how few people actually keep the weight off long term. So no matter what the actual percentage is kind of pointless. The point is way more people end up gaining the weight back than don't. And what I want to do with this video is make sure you don't become another statistic. Okay, so there's many different reasons why people end up giving up and gaining the weight back. But to me, one of the biggest reasons is just rushing the process. It's too much short-term thinking and never thinking big picture. It's just so important to stop worrying so much about the result. I mean, how many times in the past have you started, saw some progress, eventually things slowed down, you got frustrated, you felt like it just wasn't worth the effort anymore, you end up saying screw it, you set yourself back, you regret it, you beat yourself up, and you just spiral out of control until you just completely give up and end up trying again in the future. The more you try to rush things, the worse it's likely gonna go. Not only do you see much more drastic slowdowns in your metabolism, so your body starts fighting you harder, it's guarding against starvation, so it's gonna make the process miserable, you're gonna feel like crap, you're gonna be more hungry, you're gonna have no energy in the gym, you're gonna be more moody and agitated, but even beyond that, it just makes it a completely unsustainable lifestyle. There's no way you can keep doing this long term. Sure, for short periods of time you'll be fine, but if you're just relying on pure willpower, eventually you're gonna snap. So if you slow down and just focus on enjoying the process as much as possible, learning, growing, not getting caught up in the result, now you don't feel so disappointed because it's not living up to whatever wild expectation you had in your head, and you're in a much better place mentally. And speaking of mental, just understand that you're gonna make mistakes. It's gonna happen. You're not gonna go through this whole process without making mistakes. So it's so important to stop judging yourself every time you make a mistake. Start talking to yourself the way you would talk to other people. If a friend came to you and said, man, I'm trying to lose weight, but I went off and I binged the other day and I feel bad, I'm such a failure, I should just give up, it's too hard, I don't have this in me, what would you say to that person? You wouldn't say, yeah, you suck, you should just give up. No, you would encourage them, you would tell them that they're human, that they're gonna make mistakes, but you just have to get back on track, all these things. But to yourself, you do say that you suck and that you can't do this and that it's too hard and that you've always been this way, so why even try? No, you gotta stop talking to yourself like that. So much of your problem is not fear of other people's opinions, fear of failure, fear of success. Sure, these things all exist. The reason that you get so caught up into it is because you fear the way you're going to treat yourself when you do make mistakes. So what you need to do is change your perception of failure. Having a mistake or a failure doesn't make you a failure. It's just a valuable stepping stone to getting better and making the necessary improvements to get there. You don't just try and succeed. It never works that way. You try and you fail over and over and over, but you get better and better over time and eventually you get there. And honestly, the most common reason I see people give up, it's feeling like you're failing. And the thing is, like, you can't fail as long as you keep trying. And the reason you want to quit because you feel like you're failing is because it's a terrible feeling. Like, nobody likes to feel like they're failing. And the easiest way to make that feeling go away is to stop trying. But here's the thing, to get rid of the feeling of failing, you do the very thing that is failing. It's crazy how the mind works, but it's true. And without question, the number one component to a person who ends up succeeding in this lifestyle has nothing to do with what kind of workout plan they did, what kind of diet they followed. No, it's the willingness to keep going when everything gets hard, getting through the tough times, and not giving up. It's practically everything, but it's much harder to not give up if you're making decisions based on emotions. This is another huge one you need to start working on. Understand, your emotions are stories that you make up in your own head that you choose to believe, even though most of your thoughts aren't even true. And most of the time, they're honestly just reasons you give yourself to justify giving up. So when you have these moments, when you're getting emotional and you're listening to the little voices in your head, think back to when you were more motivated and you set a plan in place to follow, execute based on the habits and rituals that you've built, not the emotions that you have. Speaking of emotions, another thing I see all the time that keeps people from getting where they want to be is worrying about the future. You fear that you're going to do the work, but it's not going to work, and you're going to end up wasting all your time. And then because of this, you don't really follow the plan. I mean, you kind of try, but you don't really follow it the way it's laid out. You kind of just, half-ass it a little bit. And then because you're not really following the plan, you don't get the result. And then you just say, see, I knew it was never going to work, so I should just not try. It's like, if you don't believe it's going to work, you're not going to put in the work. And if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get the result. So you probably hear people say all the time, you have to trust the process. And this is why it's so true. It's not just some cliche saying. It's because if you don't believe that the process is going to work, then you're not going to put in the necessary effort to get there. And if you don't follow the plan, then the plan's never going to work. But if you go all in and say, I'm going to do this no matter what, and I'm not going to give up no matter what, now at least you have a chance of success. But if you don't do it because you're worried it might not work, it's never going to work. You're always better off putting in the work and trusting the process and seeing what happens than you are wondering what could have been. It's always better to try and fail than it is to wonder what could have been. What would have happened if I had just kept going? And honestly, very few people end up failing when they truly go all in and make that commitment. Another big one is accepting reality for what it is. You're going to end up with a lot of different circumstances in life that are going to challenge you. A lot of obstacles. Things are always going to come up. You're going to get kicked down. You're going to get kicked while you're down. Things are going to happen. But if you use the things that happen in your life as the reason you can't do something, and you feel like, well, I'll just stop until I can give 100%, you're going to spend more of your life doing nothing than you are going to do it 100%. And not only are you going to get nowhere, you're probably going to end up going backwards most of the time. So instead of wishing things that can't be different were different and letting it bother you mentally and getting you down and leading you to disappointment and frustration, just look at it and say, is there something about this I can control? If it's something you have no control over, let it go and focus on what you can do. Otherwise, they just become reasons to give up again. Which, speaking of the all or nothing mentality, a big part of this is often looking at foods as good or bad, feeling like there's morality in food and you beat yourself up and feel guilty because you went off plan a little bit, getting too strict with your diet, not allowing yourself to have anything you enjoy, and it's just this mad dash to the finish line, and there's just no way you can sustain this in the long run. There's no permanent results without permanent change. Now, don't twist that as you're just going to have to eat super low calorie all the time and you always have to crush yourself with activity. I'm not saying that at all. And there's going to be phases where you back off, bring calories up, maintain for a while, even slightly gain, and then you can come back and diet again. There's many ways to do this stuff, but it can never be all or nothing perfectionism. It's just not going to work. Tell me, you've probably done this your whole life, right? It's just never worked and it's never going to work. So you need to get past that thought process. Now, arguably one of the biggest things that can be a help is having a strong why. Strong why means something that is super important to you, that is a reason you have to keep going no matter what. Because unfortunately, a lot of people just say, well, I just want to lose some weight because I feel a little uncomfortable. And there's no real big reason behind it. It's just, oh, I just like to lose a little weight. The problem with that is it might be enough to get you started, but when the difficulties eventually arise, it's not going to be enough to keep you going. You need something powerful that means a lot to you, that is a reason you have to keep going no matter what. I don't care if it's setting a good example to your children so they don't follow the same footsteps, being around for your family, making sure you don't die an early death that you could have prevented. I kind of hate how little it seems like anyone cares about health. I remember many years ago, a marketing guy in fitness was talking about how you never want to use health as a reason for someone to need your services because nobody feels like they're going to get sick until they actually do. And that's actually pretty much true, unfortunately. Like, it almost doesn't matter how overweight someone gets, how much their health markers start to suffer, how bad things get. Everyone seems to think they're going to be fine until something finally happens. And for some, that's what it takes to finally get it together. Unfortunately for others, now it's too late and they're gone. And I just, man, that kills me. We get one life. We get one shot at this. And nothing's guaranteed. And I just think it can be so powerful to understand that and use that as a form of your own motivation. Again, whatever it needs to be for you is fine. Something that you really care deeply about that will keep you going will do wonders for your long-term success. No matter what, I can already promise you, I know it's not sexy, it's not something you want to hear, but everything you want to do here is going to be harder than you want it to be. It's going to take longer than you want. It's gonna be harder than you want. You're gonna make mistakes along the way. You're gonna feel like it's not worth the effort. It's gonna be maddeningly frustrating sometimes, but keep going. The common denominator between those who succeed and those who don't is the willingness to keep going in the face of adversity, no matter what's happening. There's no quit. It's all about grit and perseverance. I'm telling you, you can do almost everything under the world wrong when it comes to fitness and get great results as long as you stop giving up when it gets hard and you keep putting in work for years. Good things are going to happen. Now, with all that being said, even though I've warned you that fast weight loss is probably not a good goal to have, there's a lot of negatives that could come with it. In some circumstances, faster weight loss can make more sense. So to find out what those are and if it's a good approach for you and a way to do it while still be able to keep it off in the long run, then make sure you check out this top video next. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead, and I'll see you in that other video.